Okay, so this is going to be a follow-up video about the Vital Watch, as well as an update video slash me talking about some of the intricacies and design decisions about this watch and discussing everybody's feedback. I didn't really write anything down for this, so it's going to be just off the cuff. Also, I apologize for the background noise. I understand that my apartment is still very echoey, and I now have a 3D printer that's currently going on in the background, so it's not going to be the best audio quality. My apologies. I politely ask that you guys kind of just deal with it. So this was actually the original design here that we were working with, that I came up with during the prototypes. And one of the biggest things about this design was people mentioned that, like, hey, could you make it even more circular? So I came up with this, and this actually looks a lot better to me. It looks more and feels really more like a traditional wristwatch. And I've gone through a bunch of iterations. Actually, the stuff you see on the table here isn't even close to all of the different bits of designs. But I wanted to talk about the actual design and the fitment of this watch, and I want to talk about what it is as well as what it is not. And that'll kind of lead us into some of the other segments here and give you guys a little bit of context about where I'm coming from. And then, moving forward, if you guys have even more feedback, just like before, it's really welcome and I appreciate it, but at least I kind of give you guys some more context here. So I actually have like several of these laying around. So starting off, let's talk about the watch itself, and the biggest bit of feedback that I got from everybody, and that was water resistance slash waterproofing. And I'm gonna go ahead and say now that I'm working on it. Waterproofing isn't really going to be a thing. Water resistance, however, I am working towards a certain degree to which people are going to be able to like wash their hands and work out and not have to worry about sweating or the rain and stuff like that. I'm working on it. However, before this goes any further, kind of like I mentioned before, I don't really want to claim its full water resistance, because I don't really want to have somebody buy this with the sole purpose of it being water resistant and then something goes wrong, because I really just don't want that level of liability. Like, don't expect any kind of like IP rating or anything like that, like your favorite cell phone has or something. But that being said, whoops. With that being said, I do want to talk about what I've done. This is not the one. This one? Where is it? This one? One of these. No? This one? No. This one. Yes? No. One of these, oh, it is this one, okay. So the first thing that I've done, oh, the squeaking, pardon the squeaking, I have to get some WD-40 for my printer, just deal with it, guys, I'm sorry. But one of the things that I've done with this updated design is that I've really played with the tolerances here, and actually this one is an older variant that I was just messing with, but the tolerances are down to like the micron levels, so it is a very tight fit to make sure that things slot perfectly and that water is not going to get in here to begin with. Also, pardon the surface quality finish here. But the other thing that I've done here is I've added these little like seams or ridges in between parts that interlock like this. And originally, I actually had these gaskets made out of TPU, but these gaskets proved to be too unreliable when it comes to things like water resistance, and I might just end up foregoing these entirely, and instead I've decided to use silicone. And this silicone actually, as you can see here, is a waterproof sealant, but it also happens to work very well on the insides of the little ridge here. And I need to get like a syringe or something to make this even more water resistant. In fact, actually, I don't even know if this isn't even the one. Here, you can see that if my camera wants to focus, that I've actually applied some sealant all throughout, and it works, from what I can tell so far, reasonably well. I also put it on the power switch here, and I coated the entire inside with silicone, as well as the buttons over here. I've laced those with silicone, and then I'm also going to pair that with dielectric grease, which is a water-resistant repellent that's actually used in a lot of cell phones, specifically like the Google Pixel products if you're a phone geek as well. So in conjunction with very tight-fitting parts and dielectric grease mixed with a silicone layer and potentially a TPU gasket, I'm not 100% sure yet, that should cover a good amount of the water resistance. And the other part is going to be where is it? The way that the components all line up together. So there will be this guy that snaps in and it's flush against here. And then the dim cap will also have a layer of silicone or that whatever kind of water resistant material I decide to use, it will have that, and then the USB-C cap will also exist as well. Which brings me to a couple of other design decisions here in order to make this water resistant. Somebody had the fantastic idea of making this a sliding mechanism, and unfortunately I couldn't do it for two reasons. Reason number one is that this section here on the watch was linear, and because it was linear, I couldn't really get it to like slide all the way, because the other thing too is that this section, as large as it seems, has to be fully open because the dim card is actually just that big. So I had to get this thing to slide all the way up, and then in order to do that, there wasn't a reliable sliding mechanism, because most sliding mechanisms are linear as far as, or at least constant as far as like the curvature or lack of curvature goes. So it just didn't work. And then on top of that, even if it did work, waterproofing that thing would be a pain in the butt, so it was just easier to just create a cap. So that's what's going on. There's going to be a cap for this, and then it slots directly into the DIM card slot like you're used to. The USB-C section, it's going to be the same thing here. It's going to be a cap, a plug that goes directly into it if you guys want USB. Really just any kind of like water resistance for any USB thing. Unfortunately, I was not able to get it like the original Vital bracelet, where this is like little not cover, but there's this little like string piece here that like holds this together. It's like a connector. I wasn't able to get this because of the way that TPU works. It's very stringy and it's messy and it doesn't really hold up very well, nor does it look good. We'll talk about looks here in a moment. And then the other part is if I use like a hard plastic, it would most likely snap and it would just be a pain in the butt. So this is my current solution. And this solution is very tight. It's been very carefully measured and remeasured, and I've worked incredibly hard on this, because if we look at this current design, and it looks like there's a ton of room in here, and in reality, there's not. There will eventually be a USB adapter here, which we'll talk about, and then the two buttons. And then if you put a cover on it, like literally any cover, specifically this back piece, you'll notice that there's no room left. Like this thing, oh, this one has a weird misprint on the side, I have to be careful. But this thing has zero room. Like it is flush, and if you look here, if I can get like just an X-Acto knife, but if you look over here, there's not a lot of room. Like that's it. I have probably less than 1 millimeter of play, like maybe 1 millimeter if I'm lucky. And that was carefully designed so that this watch could be as slim as possible, and I actually had to up this by 1 millimeter, and that doesn't sound like much, but this only makes it so that in comparison to the actual Vital bracelet, this thing is still thinner. It's actually thinner than the Vital watch at its like, it's thinner than this black piece over here, even at like a linear guide. It's about 5 millimeters thinner. I did just make sure that it's still remarkably thin. But this is about as big as I would like a watch to be. I wouldn't want a watch personally to be any larger than this, so this is where I'm gonna keep it at. And I've got reasonably small wrists, mind you, but this is kind of like a one size fits all kind of deal. And that's the other part. This watch is meant to be a drop-in kit. It's not really meant to be a full-on modification of existing components inside of here, except for like the outer shell. A lot of people have asked me, hey, can you change the screen out, or can you change the battery? Can you switch the heart rate sensor and stuff like that? And the answer to all of those, unfortunately, is going to be no, for a multitude of reasons. Reason number one is what product is intended to be. And this product is a conversion kit for people who are interested in buying this thing. And in order for people to want to buy this thing and do it themselves, that means that they have to have the proper materials, which I'm going to provide. But I don't have an extra battery to give everybody. I'm not going to resolder everyone's battery. I don't have the proper screen. And then on top of screens, what people need to realize is that you have to find the proper screen that has the right connectors on the backside that also speak to the main board properly using the correct language. And then whatever software that Bandai's using to make the vital bracelets. They have to properly display the right thing on the screen. There's this NFC tag. It's a pain. It's not as easy as dropping something in and going. Same with the heart rate sensor. A lot of people have recommended that I use like a Fitbit sensor, which upon my this board, by the way, has been destroyed. I'm really happy I didn't use my actual vital bracelet. I have moved and removed this thing over like 2 or 3 dozen times. In the process, I have disconnected like the battery wires over here. The sound driver has been completely yanked off. I accidentally sliced open my heart rate sensor when I was cutting something. So this guy's toast. Maybe in a future project I actually will solder a bigger battery in, but that's not a project for the Vital watch specifically. This is a drop-in kit for people who own the stock Vital bracelet and they just want to drop all the components in here using this kit provided. So sorry guys, I know a lot of people think that this is going to be some ambitious super project. Unfortunately, that's just not what this is. I know that like realistically, there's like a lot of people are expecting a lot from me, and I appreciate the confidence, but like things like swapping out the heart rate sensor, it's too sophisticated for a device like this, and I know people have had issues with the sensor and stuff, but that's not really what this project aims to fix. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to point that out because I don't want to misconstrue anybody moving forward, and I don't think I have, but I just really wanted to set that precedent. The other thing that people have asked is about like the cover and what you can do about the watch itself. And this cover is going to be in every watch. I didn't put it on here because I wanted to see how much clearance I had, but you know, this is going to be inside the glass, and eventually you'll be able to put in your own custom art. Well, first and foremost, I think when it comes to custom art, I think I'm just going to leave a template for people to cut out their own, because as far as cutting this goes, you actually don't need to cut a full circle. Like this lip here is large enough that you can cut at like a first grade level and still make it look really good, as long as you can cut a square, and you'll have this as an outline. You can literally just take a knife and then go around it. But that also lets people choose their own art. I don't have the best like inkjet printer or laser printer, so it just would be a disservice for me to print your art for you, especially since most people are going to be designing this themselves. So yeah, I'll just let people go ahead and do that on their own. This part, the glass is probably going to be pre-installed because I want to waterproof. I actually want to make the glass part waterproof. I have like jeweler cement, like jewelry watch cement that I'll be putting around here for a watch crystal. So this part will go in after, and then you'll drop on the rest of the parts and all that good stuff. Another thing that I should talk about is, why is this part blank? And could you add stuff like an analog watch or a digital watch or something? And the answer to that is no. I meant to say this in my last video, and I put it in the comments after because I thought I talked about it and I didn't. I don't have enough room. I've tried so hard. Like I've spent countless hours actually trying to modify this design and then moving the battery and stuff. That's actually one of the reasons why this battery broke. It's because I moved it around so much. I was trying to figure out, is there a way for me to put an analog watch in here? Because I think that'd be so sweet. And there just really isn't. And I've tried with like actual like physical watches. Like I've taken apart like my own personal watch, and then I've looked online at like tiny watch movements, and they all add about another 3 to 5 millimeters of thickness, which then puts me back at vital bracelet range. And I don't really want that, because the thinness is one of the reasons why I really enjoyed this device to begin with. So unless somebody can find me like a digital watch or something that has literally 1 millimeter of clearance, then that's probably not happening. On that note, if somebody can also find, while we're talking about things to find, if somebody can find a wireless charger that is micro USB, like a wireless charging coil, like the little copper coils, that talks directly to micro USB, that is less than 40 millimeters, I would deeply appreciate that, because I really want to add wireless charging in here. But every wireless charging kit that I've seen that is small, this body is about 45 millimeters. But every one that I've seen is one that you directly solder into, or it comes with an extra board or something like that. I think wireless charging would be really sweet in here, but because, again, this is a drop-in conversion kit, I can't count on anybody doing any soldering, so that's just not going to be something that I can give to people without the proper things to source. Couple of other stuff as well, since we're talking about parts. The USB here, I've got shipping from China. The original ones that I showed you guys in the previous videos, like this guy here and this one, They're both they're both too long. I mentioned that earlier. And the one that I'm getting is about 4 millimeters shorter, which is roughly like this much shorter. It's basically like you just remove this piece here. It's tiny, and it's actually exactly what I need. It's what I ordered to spec. That's going to be coming in the next couple of days, which means that I will have this design finalized. It's going to be more or less like this, what you see here. But while that's going, that gives me a chance to finalize the water resistance. I'm going to be wearing a dummy watch that is going to be hopefully fully sealed off, and water resistance will hopefully work. I'll let you guys know before like the actual orders come up. But because I'm ordering this from like I'm ordering that specific part from China, and it is very integral to this watch. That means that there's going to be some lead time before doing actual orders. Sorry for the squeaking again, but there's going to be, I would assume, like 3 to 5 weeks from the time I finalize my design to actually being able to take orders, because I'm ordering bulk from China and it just takes so long, and the seller I'm working with is the fastest, like he mentioned it was the fastest he can get it, and it's still going to be like 3 to 5 weeks. So without the risk of like spending too much money on this project, because I've spent a lot of money already on this project, there's going to be a bit of a wait. I don't want to do pre-orders before anybody asks, because I really don't feel comfortable taking people's money on a product that I'm not ready to sell. So I do ask that everyone just be patient with these kind of things, and as soon as I get the stock, I am going to print. I'm literally going to, once I get my first one that I ordered, my first USB, I'm going to finalize the design, I'm going to print everything, and then I'll have everything ready to ship before the USBs get here, and then once the USBs get here, I'll finalize everything, I'll make them all in batches, and I'll start selling everything. So yeah, the other final note about this product, I am, for the 3D printing nerds, somebody mentioned about like the surface quality and the finish. People have asked, why don't you print in resin? Why don't you print in ABS and all these other things? And originally, goodness gracious, that sound. Sorry guys. Originally, I was going to print in PETG, which is it's like a PET plastic material that's used in a lot of things, from like water bottles and stuff like that. It's actually what's causing my printer to squeak over here, because I'm printing some other parts. But the quality just didn't come out the way I want it to, and my main reason for using PET was that it was going to be temperature resistant. And I didn't want to use PLA, which is the most common printing material that you see here, which, by the way, the final product is not going to be red, just so you guys know. It's going to be matte black. I'm going to get a really nice matte black filament. I just used red because I had to print some mods for my 3D printer, and I thought red would look really cool. But the final product is going to be black. But PLA just looks really nice, and you can get a pretty good surface quality on it. Like this here is a pretty decent quality. It's not the best thing ever, right? You can still tell it's 3D printed. But if people want to like sand this thing down, if they want to polish it, if they want to do something to this, PLA is overall more rugged. It's easier to work with. It's easier and cheaper to mass produce. Even to get like a nice PLA is still cheaper than getting a decent PETG material. Also, PETG doesn't, it just strings, and I can't get it to look good no matter what I've tried, and I've spent several hours, and it just, everything I've seen about PETG just doesn't come out as good. And the main reason I was going to use it was going to be for heat resistance, because PLA has a warping / melting point of 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which most people aren't going to get to that point anyway, but it was still a concern for me. I wanted to, if some unlucky guy is in Arizona and he leaves this in his car, it's going to warp, and I don't really want that. So some nice guy on Reddit is letting me try his HT PLA, or heat tempered, heat treated PLA. I don't know, but basically you can bake it to anneal the plastic, and then it actually has a significantly higher temperature resistance, thermal resistance. But a lot of people have said negative things about it, so this guy is just giving me his role because he had the worst time with it. He hates it, and he was like, dude, if it works for you, awesome. But I suspect it won't, and I suspect I'm going to go into a nice matte black finish. The reason I didn't do ABS is because it's a pain in the, it's a pain in the butt to work with. It also smells terrible, and my wife is very sensitive to smell, and I live in an apartment. I can still smell the steak I cooked 3 hours ago, so I don't want to I don't want to print with ABS. And a similar story goes for resin, but also resin is very brittle, and the reason I didn't use an SLA printer was because I don't want a watch that you can smack into and then have it crack or shatter or anything like that, or chip. So you can see here, I'm printing with like literal millimeters here. Like this is a gross model, I apologize, get a prettier one. But like these have like 1 millimeter walls. So if I use resin, a lot of people have told me that like resin's probably not the best candidate for something like this. So good old fashioned PLA is gonna be my choice. If people want to sand this thing or polish it or post process it, you can definitely do that. I might do that with my own once I get the matte black, depending on how it comes out. But just know that like, that's gonna be a thing. That's why I chose this. I know this is a lot of information. I know that people are curious about like what's gonna happen next and things like that. And I wanna thank everybody who has been kind enough to offer feedback and enthusiasm toward a product like this. Everyone's been nothing but kind with their words, and it's been one of, if not the most fun project I've ever had working on, just as like a side little YouTube Discord project thing. I don't know. It's definitely my favorite 3D printing project, and I've done a lot of cool 3D prints. But I just ask that everybody just be patient with me here. I'll try to have everything out soon. Don't expect water resistance, please. But just know that I'm working on it, and when the final product comes out, then yeah. Final thing, as far as price goes, because I do intend on selling this, so I apologize to the people that were thinking that I was going to be kind enough to just give this out for free. But it's just the amount of like work and effort and R&D and materials that I've spent on here. It's basically just for me to like compensate that kind of stuff. Originally, I didn't think I was going to have this many people interested, and now I'm wondering if I can even keep up. So that'll be interesting. I may have to do this in waves, but as far as initial price goes, I'm leaning on the ballpark of around $35 US. I already had this price in mind before I put out the survey, but given the survey results, that seems to be on par with what everybody else is thinking. And once I factor in like materials and stuff, it kind of just makes sense. That price does not include shipping. For people that live overseas that are not in the United States, I'm going to apologize in advance because shipping is probably going to own both of us when I do open an Etsy shop. I'm just going to give you guys the heads up. I don't have any control over that kind of thing. I'm sorry. As far as like the service for like a conversion kit and like how, like for people sending it in and getting it shipped out and things like that, I don't really know how I want to do that yet. If anybody has experience like selling that kind of service, I would love to know, because there's things like shipping. Like I would assume that I would pay for shipping to and from. I don't, or like I would provide shipping to me, and then shipping back to you would just be included in like the Etsy shipping price that you would pay separate. I don't know. I haven't really thought that far out as far as like the service part goes. I'm just thinking about like where I am now currently. And yeah, I just want to be really open-ended with everybody. But that's where we are. Again, my final design should be done here in the next couple of days, probably within the week. And at that point, I will make a final version of this thing in matte black, and I will not put a vital bracelet in here, or the vital bracelet internal screen here quite yet. I'll seal this off. I'll wear it for a day or two. I'll actively try to like wash my hands and like, I don't know, stick it in the shower or something. I don't know. And then we'll see how it stacks up with water resistance. That way everybody knows what they're getting. And then after that, we should be good to go. I will then order all of the USBs. I'll be honest, guys, I haven't really ordered the USBs quite yet because personal note, I just paid off all of my student loans and I'm broke. So yay for me, but also I can't spend a couple $100 ordering USB adapters and extra filament and stuff. So I do have to wait until my following paycheck. But yeah, once that's done and I get that ordered, I'll make an official wait list saying the product is going to be available soon. I'll open up an Etsy shop. People can be on the wait list, and then I will be sending out like an email to like the first 100 people or something, because apparently there's over 100 people who are interested in this thing, and that's kind of wild to me. So I'm probably going to order in bulks of 100s, because 100 orders is a lot for me to keep up with to begin with, and that's also time for me to reorder things in waves and kind of figure out how I want to handle everything logistically. So that's everything, guys. Just like last time, I appreciate any and all comments that you guys have. If you guys have any interesting bits of feedback, let me know. If you guys do find like a wireless charging coil, or if you guys have really any sweet ideas about like water resistance, that is easily achievable. A lot of people have said, hey, spray it with this thing, or like apply this like liquid electrical tape and stuff. You guys have to realize that a lot of these kits being sent out are just this plus glass and a USB. I'm not going to have the guy's vital bracelet for, according to my survey, about 56% of people. I'm not going to have your bracelet. So it's just going to be this being sent out. So if you guys have any feasible bits of information, let me know. If you guys find like an analog or a digital clock that is literally 2 millimeters or less, it's not a joke, let me know. And then just like last time, leave any comments down below. I appreciate you guys. It's been really fun, and I will talk to you guys in probably like another week or two. Peace.